Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Vox Pictoria. I'm Joe, and I hope you're doing well today. The topic of this video is going to be the Great Resignation. And I know this is a very popular topic right now. I wanted to give you my thoughts on this, and it's my hope that what I will offer here will help you and perhaps save you some trouble and aggravation. So we're going to break this video down into two parts. It's going to be part one for the individual, that would be you, and part two for what my thoughts would be on perhaps what some employers could do, because I don't think this is really going to go away, and I do think it's going to affect things moving forward. How we work, how we do our jobs, how we live our lives, and I think we have an opportunity to make it a good thing, not a bad thing. So let me start with what I think you, the individual who might be thinking about quitting your job, should consider before you actually quit your job. So the first thing you want to think about is that your main stream of revenue is currently your job, right? So a lot of people talk about having multiple streams of revenue. You may or may not have those multiple streams set up yet, which I think is something you should do. You can Google that. There's a lot of great people who are helping other people understand how to set up multiple streams of income. But if your main source, your main stream of income is your full-time job, if you quit your job, that stream of income literally goes away. It may seem hard to believe, but it's a cold, hard fact that when you stop working, those automatic deposits into your checking account will simply stop. So you want to consider that. The other thing you want to consider is your monthly expenses. Let's say you're fortunate enough to have some money in savings. Let's say, for example, you have $5,000 in savings and you're going to quit your job, and you just want to be part of the Great Resignation, and it's going to really feel great and liberating and freeing, and your job is killing you, and on and on and on. That's not really what this video is about too much. This is about planning for actually taking that leap, and whether or not you should do it now or kind of build in a cushion and then do it. So let's say you have $5,000 in the bank in savings and you quit your job. Your revenue stream is going to stop and you have $5,000. Well, you need to think about your monthly expenses. If we take the Boston area, for example, you will either be paying a mortgage or you'll be paying rent. So that is going to take a sizable chunk of your savings the first month. So let's say your mortgage is $2,000 or maybe your rent is $1,500. That's going to bring you down to about $3,500 after you pay your rent. And then you'll have to pay your other bills. You may have student loans. You're certainly going to have utility bills. You may have a credit card debt. Actually, let's talk about that for a second. You really shouldn't quit your job right away if you're carrying debt, because that debt's not going to go away and you'll still be carrying that. But back to the example, after the first month of quitting your job, if you only have about $5,000 in savings, you're looking at maybe consuming a large chunk, maybe half of your savings, just to support yourself in that first month. The other thing that I learned as a young person, my dad told me this, is that accidents, they're going to happen. It's inevitable. There's going to be some disaster. There's going to be some emergency. You may have to have a root canal. You may need a crown, for example, in a root canal. That could be $1,300 with insurance, on top of your $1,500 for rent, and then your utilities. You wouldn't want to charge that to build up your debt as you're moving along through your newly found freedom as you quit your job. So you may have a pet. Your dog might need to go to the vets. He may eat a peach pit and need a $3,000 operation to save his life. And at the end of month one, you find that between paying your bills and some of these emergencies that may have cropped up, you have no money left. And that's not where I want you to be. It would be far better to keep your job at that point than to have quit the job and blown through your savings in the first month, only to find that now you have no money and you have no money coming in. I don't want you to be in that position. So this is why I'm making this video, to help you consider some things before you quit your job. I know your job is killing you. It's soul crushing. It's toxic. I get it. But it's a far worse life to be out there without a job and without money. So hang in there with me for a couple of minutes. There are a couple of other things that I need you to consider as you're thinking about joining the Great Resignation that I have not seen anyone talk about yet. And that's your actions today and how they're going to affect your life in the future. For instance, many people don't realize that your Social Security benefits, that's when you retire, you'll get your Social Security from the government. You might say, oh, Joe, it's not going to be there when I retire. I wouldn't count on that, and I wouldn't buy into that theory. I'm betting that it will be there, or some form of it, because it's going to be there. Don't worry too much about that. But what happens, each paycheck that you get, you pay half of your Social Security insurance from that paycheck, every paycheck, and your employer pays the other half. You'll see that in the deductions if you look at your pay stub. That is you and your employer both paying into your retirement fund that comes through the government. If you're in the United States, you have Social Security. Other countries have something similar, or maybe not at all. But in this case, in this example, we're going to talk about US-based Social Security. So if you quit your job, you're no longer contributing to your retirement Social Security, neither is your employer. So let's say you quit your job for 3 years and you're not working and you're just sort of drifting around, having a wonderful time and enjoying the freedom and the bliss of not being part of the corporate environment, or not having to obey any masters in the corporate world, or whatever the logic is for you joining the Great Resignation. Know that these years that you're not working, you're also not contributing to your future in the form of Social Security, so that when you're 65, you can go to the Social Security office or apply online. And the response is, well, this is how much you're going to get. And you'll say, well, why? Why is it so low? And someone will point to the fact that back here, you took 3 years off and you weren't contributing. Therefore, that money was not allocated to your retirement. Okay, so the other thing I need you to be aware of is if you're currently employed and you're participating in your employer's 401k plan, oftentimes there's a match associated with that. Like employers might match the first 3%. So that's free money. And let's say you join the Great Resignation and you're out of work full-time for 3 years and you're not getting, the kind of money that you're getting now, and you're not contributing to your 401k. So let's say, as an example, if you had been good about it while you were employed, perhaps you were contributing, let's say, 10 grand a year. So over the course of maybe 3 years, if you take time off, that could really be, a dollar amount of $30,000, right? 10 grand for 3 years is 30 grand. But what happens through the miracle of compounding interest, and as that grows over time, over the course of 5 or 10 or 15 years in your retirement account, that $30,000 could easily turn into $100,000 just by sitting there doing nothing, because you've contributed to it in these years And there it is, right, waiting for you when you retire. So I know I've talked a lot about retirement now, and you might be in your 20s or 30s, and you're like, Joe, that's so far off. It's another lifetime. I can't even think about that now. Believe me, I was 18 like 2 seconds ago. I'm not 18 anymore, and I'm at the stage where that cliff is coming. And the reason why I'm telling you all this is because I am a person who did take some time off from the corporate work world for a bunch of reasons, but that is really kind of backfiring on me now, and I don't want you to make those mistakes. So the things that you're not hearing when you think about the romantic notion of joining the Great Resignation is that you're not going to be contributing to your Social Security benefits. You're not going to be contributing to your 401k fund. You're not going to have a mainstream of income that's coming in to keep you alive now. And the other thing that I want you to think about, which might be minor and might be, again, oh, Joe, please don't even talk to me about that, it's so minor, is that let's say you quit now and you become kind of the modern age hippie and you're drifting around and you're doing the gig economy and you're surviving and making it work. But after 3 years, you meet the love of your life and you're a little bit older and you need to settle down and you need to buy a house and get married and have kids. I don't know if anyone gets married anymore, do they? But they certainly have kids, and that's fine. We need more great people coming into the world. But you understand what I'm saying, that the point may be that someone might say in the background somewhere 3 years from now, hey fella, you need to get a job. And so then you think, yeah, I guess you're right. I had a good 3 years, or I had a good time off. It was great to be part of the Great Resignation, but I do need a job. So I'll just simply pull my resume together and do some job interviewing and get a job like no problem at all. Not so fast. Here's what's going to happen. You now have a gap on your resume. And the people who are going to hire you, maybe, are going to say, tell me about what you've been doing. What are you going to say? I quit my job because I wanted to be part of the Great Resignation. They're going to say, I guarantee you, what's going to come out of their mouths next is, so do you have any questions for me? When they say that, the interview is over and they're moving you along. So you need to be conscious, like a year, six months, 3 years on a resume as a gap is huge these days. If you're in the corporate environment and you're using any of the tools that any of us use, you know that they change, they're very fluid. So if you don't know how to add a person in G Suite to a Google Doc and let them have permission to see that doc, not only the doc but the folder, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then imagine what's going to happen 3 years from now as that river is moving and you're not in it and you don't know how to survive in the corporate workplace. So what am I saying? Before you quit your job, you need to have a plan in place that's going to support you now and in the future. So if you decide, I want to be part of the Great Resignation, I'm fed up with the corporate world, I'm fed up with people telling me what to do, I'm fed up with the toxic environment, I'm fed up with all the things that you might be fed up with, or maybe you just feel like, hey, I want to be part of that movement. I am here to caution you. You need to do it in the following way. Let's say you decide to quit your job. I'm fine with that. That's cool. I get it. You want to quit. You want to quit. But what I want you to do next is put a plan in place. Like, what are you going to do for a revenue stream if you quit your job? And what about investing for the future? So you'll need to say, okay, Joe, I'm going to start my own business. That's awesome. I would not try to stop you. But you need to get that business plan written down and in place before you quit your job. As toxic and as painful and as awful as your current job is, the way to do this is to come up with a business plan, write that business plan down, and put that business in a place where you can start it part-time, get it up and running, and then quit the job you hate. Because then you'll be your own boss. You'll be working for yourself. And here's a story. I once worked for a very smart man who was very wealthy. And he was not supposed to be there during my job interview, but he was. So he was the president of the company at the time. And he came in and he sat with me, and I told him that I had another job offer. And he said, no, you'll never get wealthy working for someone else. And so I worked for him. He is wealthy. I am not. So let that be a lesson to you. So if you are going to start your own business, chances are, if it succeeds, you'll be all set. But you want to get the mindset ready, and you want to get that sort of started before you join the Great Resignation. So that is something you're really going to need to think about. Whatever it is, you want to start a candle making company, a fudge making company. I saw a great story online about a woman who owns a bar in New York. She now does Irish bread and jam, and it's wildly successful. And I think if you met her, I don't know her, hello love, but if you did meet her, she'd probably say, if I can do it, you can do it too. It's hard work, but she has a plan and it's working and she's surviving. So you can do that kind of stuff. Maybe you want to be an accountant, maybe you want to be whatever, but you have to have that plan in place before you start to think about not working for someone else, because you're going to get crushed if you just leave your job without a plan. And I do not want that to happen to you. Being without money in a place like this country or anywhere is terrible. It's terrible, and the expenses we incur now, and the cost of living is so high, and it's such a struggle, and many people are struggling. You have a job. You have a chance. You don't like it, you're uncomfortable, but you're not living under a bridge somewhere. You have a chance to do this and do this correctly. So don't screw this up. I don't want to see you out there, in a bad way. So take my advice. I've lived it. I've done dangerous things with my career, like quitting jobs. And, now I'm scrambling at this age to catch up. So, okay, you get the point. I want to do two things here. I want to take a moment to thank my current employer for giving me a job. Henry, thank you. All right, that done. Let's talk about what employers can do in this environment of the Great Resignation, right? So there's a saying like the toothpaste is out of the tube. Like, this thing is already happening. And I really feel that it is going to change the way we do business, the way we work. People want to work at home. People don't want to drive to work anymore. They don't want to scrape snow and ice off their car. I get it. I live that. My commute is an hour each way, and I'm not going that far. I just happen to be on one of the most congested roads in the Boston area. So, I lose an hour each way. Since I've been working at home, in my opinion, I'm more effective and I'm getting more done, and it's better for me. So everyone likes to work at home versus going into the office. Well, not everyone. A lot of people do. There are people who don't want to quit. They like to go to the office. They like that. That's fine. I wish I were one of those people. I'm not. I prefer to work from home. But I don't want to lose my job. So whatever it takes at this point. But so what can employers do? I don't really have the answer, but I think the business community is going to have to take a deep look at this. On the surface of things, it's that people are uncomfortable coming back to the office. We still have a situation where people feel unsafe coming back into the office. There's still some unknowns there. People have become accustomed to getting their jobs done by working at home. So I think for employers, that it might be a matter of just making in some concessions, like being more flexible. Asking people to come into work 3 days a week, in my opinion, is no different than asking them to come into work 5 days a week. So allowing people to work from home, if you can just look at the numbers, look at the metrics, right? That's what business does, and you do it really well. Is this person getting their job done? Are they being effective? Are they showing up? Are they online? And are they working? And are the clients happy? I don't know how you could ask for more than that. asking people to come into work just to be there. Some people just don't get that, right? But the other thing that a lot of people are not considering here is that employers have a lot of money tied up in property and in rent, right? They're renting space inside buildings and they're losing that money because no one's showing up for work. And the other trickle-down part of that is that if no one shows up for work anymore, no one goes into the office anymore. You need to show up for work, show up at home. But if you're not going to the office, that leaves all this office space open, and the people who own those buildings will struggle, and that might have a negative effect in a large way on the economy. I don't know, but I think there is a compromise. There is a middle ground. Employers and employees can find a way to work together so that, it's not folding their arms across their chest and just, saying to your employer, I quit, I hate you, I'm not coming back to work anymore, right? Again, the individual needs to understand the difference between being uncomfortable and being poverty-stricken, or having a serious life emergency where you have no fundamentals, food, shelter, water. And listen, as an individual, you need your own plan, because as someone said to me once, if you don't have a plan, you're going to get someone else's plan, and you're not going to like that. And that carries through your whole life. So think about what you're doing before you quit your job. What's it going to be like? Do you have enough money in savings? Are you carrying debt? Can you support all that if you quit your main stream of income? Many of us can't. So that means you need to keep your job until you can really come up with some other plan that allows you to transition out of your current job working for someone else and work for yourself. There are a lot of people online, YouTube people, you can find them. Andre Gic is great. I watch his channel. He's helped me a lot. He has multiple streams of income. There's a guitar player called Chris Buck, who is a fantastic guitar player. He has multiple streams of income. I didn't know that until he mentioned it in one of his videos. So if you're going to do this, get your other wires hooked up so that you're doing things properly and that you can support yourself if you quit your job. So the Great Resignation is something that we're all dealing with, but I think it should not be acrimonious between employers and employees. We all have to live together and get along, and we need to support one another. And I do think there's a way to do this. I think if employers actually look at what's going on business-wise, people are surviving, and it is working in many cases. It's certainly working for the company where I work right now. We're doing extremely well, and most of us are working from home. So I know in other cases it doesn't work like that. The service industry is really struggling and people have to show up physically. But, that's something I don't have the answer for. But this video is really aimed at people who are just sort of cranky and want to join this sort of phenomenon that's going on. I want to just warn you ahead of time that you really need to think this out before you do it, because once you're outside the walls of the castle, it's difficult to get back in. Can you imagine a scenario where you quit your job and you just doesn't work out, and you call your employer and you want your job back, and they say, nope, we already hired someone to take your place. So that would be a cold water bath. All right. Thank you all for watching. We're going to wrap this video up. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to help me. If you got anything out of it, that will help support the channel. And for now, I'm signing off. I wish you all the best. I'm grateful to all of you for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.